Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. We are also live on GTV and stream on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Michelin Taka. You're welcome. On day 3 of the public inquiry into the EJURA disturbances, 4 witnesses are expected to appear to give their testimonies to the panel. We will speak to our correspondent Nicholas Osei to update us on how the day has traveled so far. Good afternoon, Nicholas. Nicholas, if you can hear me, who are the 4 appearing today? Just reaching Nicholas. We will get him on the line once our producers sort that out. Still on the EJURA inquiry, the 3-member fact-finding committee set up by the Minister for the Interior to investigate circumstances that led to the death of 2 persons at EJURA is expected to submit its findings and recommendations to government by close of Saturday, July 10, 2021. The sitting has traveled 3 days so far. Inote Ado on how sitting has traveled so far. Hello, good afternoon, Doc. Doc, good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining a News Hour. We are so grateful for your time.
Thanks for having me.
In your estimation, how is sitting going so far?
Well, I think that sitting is progressing, as we can all see. When it started, there were some basic concerns raised. Because people felt that questions they expected to be asked were not being asked. Rather, they were focusing on issues which they thought was not pertinent. But I would argue that these are the initial stages, and so certainly such issues are bound to come up. But the most important thing is the fact that as the committee continues to embark on its work, the terms of reference would be very important in terms of cross-checking it and thoroughly exhausting what is required of it, as a committee.
Very well. Would one be right to say that the panel is being thorough with gleaning facts?
When we look at events beginning yesterday and a bit more into today, I would say yes, they've started to go more into details now as opposed to when they started. We had issues to do with the background of Mr. Kaka, who unfortunately passed away, whether he belonged to the MPP or it is a member of the Fix the Country campaign. We had issues to do with proliferation of security experts and the tensions created by the media. There's been issues of what happened on that day, the bullets fired, stones thrown, and all that. We've had even some contradictory accounts of whether a soldier was hurt or not. And so generally those issues began to generate a lot of interest. But now, following from what had happened, I think we're now beginning to get a bit more into details to ascertain the facts as they ought to be towards recommendation eventually.
Very well. Let's talk about the time frame. Is it enough to exhaust all the issues on hand?
I would say it should be enough, really. If I'm correct, I think it's about 10 days. And it is basically to establish why the death of Mr. Kaka, the late Kaka, and what led to these protests then that generated the unfortunate incident of the killing of 2 persons and injuring of others. Again, people, police and the military were deployed. Who were behind these deployments? Were decisions made appropriately? And the bullets that were fired and people killed, can we get those who were behind such actions, to answer some serious questions, okay? And going forward, how is it that we can then empower the whole security system to the extent that crime can be contained and addressed, and so these are issues which I think that if the committee really pays a closer look at, we should be making some credible progress towards future, correction of anomalies.
So finally, what would you like to see to become of the report? What would you like to see it to be?
I would like eventually to see that when recommendations are made, certainly these recommendations are carried through. But more essentially, that in terms of recommendations, that policy decision making is crucially tackled. Who do you put in leadership to do what at what point in time? Decisions that are made, are they adequate decisions to undertake at that strategic level? Does it give the chance for people to be able to carry out operations at the operational and tactical levels? Again, those you are deploying in such areas, do they have the necessary equipment? Do they have accoutrement? Do they have the resources to do what they are expected to do? And how well are they trained to make quick decisions to ensure that crime control is taking place within a setting which is not like in the past of regime security, but within a democratic dispensation where rights are respected, so because that's very important. And then, do we see anything developing out of the recommendations? Will people be held accountable? Will people be happy with the process? At the end of the day, all these questions would need to be addressed. And if it is done and done properly, I think going forward, avoid some of these incidences that took place in the recent past.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prosper Ni Norte Ado. He is a security and defense analyst, sharing his thoughts on how certain it has traveled so far with regards to the EJURA shooting inquiry. Now we have my colleague from the Shanti region, Nicholas, who is sitting at the probe. Hello, good afternoon, Nicholas.
Good afternoon, Sir.
Who are the four appearing today?
Today, we were supposed to have at least two of the witnesses to testify before the committee. But just about 30 minutes ago, the committee had to adjourn its hearing to tomorrow after listening to the testimony of the second witness for the day, who happens to be the eighth in a series of the testimonies of witnesses appearing before it. And today we had the first one to appear, who in succession was the EJURA Secretariat Municipal Chief Executive, Mr. Mohammed Sali Subamba. Hello?
I'm with you, Nicholas. Please go on.
Yeah, Mr. Mohammed Sali Subamba appeared before the committee today to testify to them concerning whatever he knows about what happened in the days prior to the assassination of Mohammed Ibrahim Kaka, and then the riot, and thereafter. And then in his capacity as the chairman of the Municipal Security Council. And in brief, what he told the committee was that, yes, on the 27th, he heard of the attack, the physical attack on Kaka, and that he had been sent to the EJURA government hospital. It was later he had been transferred to Konkalos Hospital. Later on, he was informed of his sudden or unfortunate passing on, and then he checked, following that, some irate youth or people who had been incensed by this particular development had allegedly attacked the municipal police headquarters at EJURA and caused some vandalism. And followed it up with the fact that he also had information that some of these youth, irate youth, followed it up to the residence of two persons who had earlier been arrested in connection with the nature of Kaka, and then vandalized the rooms of these suspects. That is why what prompted him in question with the Security Council to call on the Mampong Divisional Police Command to reinforce the security of presence, especially the police in the area, so they could cater for the situation. And following that, that was on the 28th, he had to leave EJURA for Accra to attend an official assignment. It was whilst he was there that he had information that a deployment of military had been to the ground to help with the controlling of the situation and to ensure that nothing untoward happened after the first incident. Then, while still in Accra, he heard of the shooting incident on the 29th that had led to the death of 2 of the demonstrators, and there were 4 of them also sustaining injuries. All this while he was also communicating on phone with the municipal police commander, who had been joined by other members of the Municipal Security Council. And so arrangements had been made. He said he only called the Ashanti Regional Minister to inform him of the situation or security situation at EJURA after agreeing to call on the Mampong Divisional Police Command, who had immediate supervisory responsibility of EJURA, to call for reinforcement. So he had no idea as to who ordered the deployment of military to EJURA. And so that's it. So he said on the 29th, once he was returning to EJURA from Accra, on reaching Mampong, he had calls. 2 of them he was able to mention. One from a security person at EJURA, and then one from among the local chieftaincy authority, asking him not to come to EJURA because he was a target of the demonstrators. Even though he hesitated in accepting this request, but he had to do so because he had been forewarned about what could possibly happen if he had entered EJURA. So he was outside EJURA all that while. So that is why he was not in the thick of affairs during the heat of the disturbances. But he also placed on record that he had nothing to do and he knew nothing about the reason for the attack on Kaka and then his death. Contrary to some speculation and allegations of pointing of fingers at him as the one who had instigated the attack on Kaka. So this one he placed on record. And then he also has clarified the fact that he is still at post. He has not been dismissed as was earlier speculated in a section of the media. So these are some of the issues he brought to the fore and knowledge of the committee. That is for the testimony of the EJURA Municipal Executive, Mr. Mohammed Sali Subamba.
Very well.
After him was medical superintendent of the EJURA Government Hospital.
Nicholas, briefly, instead of 4 persons appearing before the committee, you made mention that just 2 appeared. Looking at the time frame, do you think they can make work within the stipulated time given, or there may be an extension?
This is quite some difficult question to answer, but I will attempt it in the sense that the itinerary they have provided us, or they provided us yesterday, the committee was, the last day of the hearing, the itinerary was supposed to have been tomorrow. And now with the turn of events, we were told the military commander who was on the ground commander at EJURA in the heat of the affairs of the incident, was supposed to have appeared. Then the regional security liaison officer was also supposed to have appeared today. And these 2 were not, did not appear before the committee. But to the best of my knowledge, the military officer had been around since morning. And so when we were told that the sitting had been adjourned, we have been wondering, no reason has been given us why he had not been given. He has not been called. And so if you ask me if the committee will be able to finish its work tomorrow, I'm sure they are going to adjust the itinerary for tomorrow. Because they have been given a timeline, and we have not been told whether or not they are going to officially seek extension of their time.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. We will come to you again for a more detailed report. Thanks so much for coming through with this report. I'm speaking with our Ashanti Regional Correspondent, Nicholas Osewusu, who gave us an update on how far the probe into the EJURA shooting has traveled. He says today, instead of 4 people sitting before the committee, only 2 appeared. Reasons were not given. You're watching News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. There was a forum in Accra to exchange and share knowledge on progress made in implementing the Women, Peace and Security agenda in West Africa. Participants highlighted their success stories, their lessons and what to do next. The Women, Peace and Security agenda works towards building the African capacity to fully implement the AU protocols on the rights of women and follow up on resolutions on women, peace and security in the context of Africa.
Since the UNSC Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security was adopted 20 years ago, continental and regional organizations have adopted various frameworks to fully implement the Women, Peace and Security agenda. This is evident in integrating women and their perspectives in peace and security issues to increase in participation and women representation at all levels of decision-making. The inclusion of women in efforts at preventing or countering violent extremism is being championed.
Given the current trend of violent extremism in the region, it's important that people at all levels, and most especially women, be included in efforts to prevent or counter violent extremism. The United States strongly believes that women are a key piece of the puzzle. Here in Ghana, success in the most vulnerable parts of the country can be achieved only when citizens, especially women and youth, engage on and advocate for the well-being of their families and the security of their communities.
Women and children continue to bear the brunt of conflicts resulting in internal displacements, poverty and diseases. At least 14 countries in West Africa have been rocked with violence and armed conflicts. However, across the region, there have been some success stories. Thus, the director for the Center for Democracy and Development believes must be scaled up.
I think a very important way forward will be for us, particularly as it relates to the G5 Sahel, to ensure that the programming that addresses women's rights, women's participation in peace and security, women's even economic participation, we really need to increase. We should actually start talking about how many sexual referral centers can we actually set up really in each of the countries.
Key findings on research in the involvement of women in violence extremism show, among others, women being used as negotiation tools in insurgencies and providing economic support to extremist groups. At a panel discussion, stakeholders called for more sensitization on gender issues, a scale-up on the budgetary allocation, and a documentation of all successes chalked up by women in peace and security. The conference was themed Our Stories, Lessons and Marching Forward. For GBC News, Shelley Annan reporting.
The Minister for Health says a total of 3.1 million Ghanaians, representing 10% of the population, have mental disorders. The minister, who was responding to questions on the floor of Parliament, said it has been established that 41% also of Ghanaians have psychological distress, which is either mild, moderate or severe. We will speak to the Chief Executive of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Kwesi Osei, to find out why a significant number of people are having mental disorders in the country. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining GBC News. We are grateful.
You're welcome.
10% of Ghana's population is quite significant. What is accounting for this rise?
Well, thank you very much and good afternoon to you all and your cherished listeners. In actual fact, it's not strange. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Indeed, we often say 1 out of 5, every 1% out of 5 people has a mental disorder. That really comes to 20%. Wow. So at 10% is not exactly strange. And the 1 in 5 is a worldwide phenomenon. So at 10% is not strange. But the question is still valid. How come that so many people have this condition? To start with, let me explain that 10% have mental disorders. Does not necessarily mean, or 3.1 million people having mental disorders, does not necessarily mean that these are people with major disorders of the type that in lay term we call mad. So it doesn't mean that 10% of Ghanaians or 3.1 million Ghanaians are mad in that sense. No. Mental illness is it varies from a mild to moderate to severe. The mild form might be the fact that people may not recognize it, but you yourself know. For instance, if you have a certain fear of height, such that if you climb or you live on the third or fourth floor of a high-rise building, you can't look down because you think the ground is open for you to be solid. You have a fear of height. It's mental illness, but it's not madness, so to speak. If you have a certain fear of, let's say, cockroach, that you hear the name cockroach and you feel like screaming, and not just one thing persists, you have a mental disorder, mental illness, but it's not madness. If you get out of your room and you feel like you've not locked your door, so go back to check, you go, you check, you've locked it, and then you take a few steps forward and you think, there's still something wrong, you didn't check it well, and it continues for just about 10 times, and not just one day, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and not just 1 week, it continues. This is mental disorder, but it's not madness. So if you put all this together, then we have numerous, it's not strange that we have all these conditions. I'm sure that even with these 3 examples, somebody can identify and say, oh, so I have this condition. The causes are numerous. The stresses in the society is part of it. People are under stress. People have challenges with relationships. People have challenges, financial difficulties. Some are also going through physical conditions which may end up with disorders of the mind. People are going through various, and then substance abuse. People are using cannabis and other alcohol. All these are numerous factors that can contribute to mental illnesses. In fact, a road traffic accident, you may survive the road traffic accident, but you may have a certain bruise on your brain. That can also be a focus of mental disorder in due course. So numerous factors.
Again, it's been also established that about 41% of Ghanaians have psychological distress. Are the factors the same, and on what levels?
Yes, factors are similar. By psychological distress, you mean you're going through a certain phenomenon which makes you not exactly at ease with yourself, and you have issues on your mind you're not able to settle. Now, 41%, a study revealed that 41% of Ghanaians go through that. Out of which 19% is more to severe, to the extent that we can call mental disorders. And the factors are, as we have stated, similarly, from financial challenges, a dilemma on their minds, educational challenges, mind or relationship problems, numerous. All these are factors that become a stress on people's minds and rob them of their inner happiness.
Thank you very much, sir. You've given us some insightful thoughts, especially with regards to the phobia. Thank you so much, Prof. We are grateful for your time. I've been speaking with the executive of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Kwesi Osei, who says the 10% revelation given by the reports is not so much alarming because the degree to which people are depressed is not so alarming. We will go to Parliament now, where it has adopted a report to ratify a bilateral cooperation between the governments of Ghana and Switzerland towards the implementation of Articles 6 of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. Article 6 is expected to help countries to reduce carbon emissions by investing in green projects.
I've seen on page 4, item number 10, that there's a communication plan. But what I want to stress is the effort of the media. We need to identify and groom ambassadors in the media landscape to ensure that each and every one will understand. If we understand what we are doing to our environment, we wouldn't be selling our farmlands for grant's sake.
We are only doing what is expected of us under Article 75(2) of the 1992 Constitution, and to pray that the minister will work hard with us representing the state to ensure that we benefit from it.
The Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners says self-policing and proper regulation will reduce the cost of fighting illegal mining in the country. At a media briefing at Dunkwa in the Central Region, the Vice Chairman of the Dunkwa chapter of the association appealed to the government to flush out political infiltration to properly regulate and publish the list of certified small-scale miners to self-police the sector.
We, the association, are committed to sustainable mining, sustainable environment, and sustainable methods of creating jobs and wealth for the people of this country, and propose the following as a sure way of ending illegal mining from the country. Number one, stamping out political infiltration to enhance proper regulation of the sector per the laws govern small-scale mining in Ghana. Publishing the list of all licensed small-scale mining companies in each mining district of Ghana so that member companies of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners will know the various companies within their areas of operation to enhance self-policing to weed out illegal mining from the country. We in the Dunkwa district of Nasser are ready to demonstrate to the people of Ghana with all our structures, including our monitoring task force, that policing and regulation will reduce the cost of fighting illegal mining to the state and will promote sustainable small-scale mining for job and wealth creation for all.
The Navrongo-Bolgatanga Catholic Diocesan Development Organization has collaborated with the Hungary Health Program to construct an OPD facility for the St. Patrick Health Center in the Wulugu community in the West Mamprushi municipality of the Northeast region. Leadership of the organization and the government of Hungary say this is to bring quality healthcare delivery to the vulnerable.
The newly constructed facility has an ultrasound laboratory, male and female wards, labor ward, dispensary, records room, patients waiting hall, among others. A senior nurse at the St. Patrick Health Center, Mr. Isaac Woyo-Monipo, who is in charge of the health facility, was happy with the timely support from Hungary's government.
The detention capacity is about 16 patients. The old one we had could take 3. Now we have a storeroom, we have laboratory, we have the consulting room, 2 consulting rooms. The old structure had only 3 rooms.
Hungary's Secretary of State, Mr. TRITAN AZBEJ, was satisfied with the project and pledged some more support for the people in northern Ghana.
We don't believe in just providing some money in a condescending way. We believe that we want to support those people who want to help themselves.
The Northeast Regional Minister, Mr. Zakaria Yidana, commended Hungary's government and the Catholic Church. He was grateful for the support by the Catholic Church in complementing the efforts of government to better the lives of citizens. The Bishop of the Navrongo-Bolgatanga Diocese of the Catholic Church, Most Reverend Alfred Ejanta, said the church will continue to help to improve the educational needs as well as the health sector in its catchment area.
He therefore encouraged workers of St. Patrick Health Center to make good use of the facility to achieve its intended purpose. On behalf of the chief, Ulungu Nayiridana, the spokesperson, Mr. Matthew Baba, thanked the leadership of the Nabrongo-Bolgatanga Diocese of the Catholic Church and Hungary's government for the gesture. Meanwhile, the construction of the OPD facility by the Nabrongo-Bolgatanga Diocese of the Catholic Church in collaboration with the Hungarian government at the St. Joseph the Worker Health Center in Guabuliga in the West Mampusi municipality in the northeast region is progressing steadily.
At KASOA Walantu North in the Wutusenya East constituency in the central region, land earmarked for roads have been occupied by some residents. The residents also complain of poor drainage system, making life more difficult.
This is an aerial view of KASOA Walantu North in the central region. Residents are a mix of all tribes with a population of little over 10,000. The community lags behind in development. There are no access roads in the community. Sections of the land earmarked for road construction are occupied by some inhabitants, while others have erected container structures for their businesses, making it impossible for motorists to connect from their homes to the main roads and from the main roads to the community. In an emergency, which will require an ambulance or a fire tender into the community, it will be impossible. This puts life and property at risk. The drainage system is poor. Whenever it rains, the rainwater must create its own diversion. This leads to flooding in the community and homes, making life uncomfortable. This was the June 30 downpour. When GBC News got to the community, all major access roads had been taken over by residents building structures on them despite warnings by city authorities. For instance, in between these two buildings, there was supposed to be a road, but this is its outcome. The indiscriminate erection of structures has become a major concern to the landlords at Walantu North. They have formed an association known as Walantu Landlords Association to address their challenges. Speaking to GBC News, they called on city authorities to intervene, although several attempts so far have failed to yield the desired results. Churches and school owners spoke about their problems.
Well, school said Benya, men so better than a flood in Colana on Befasa, say, Omusua, Yapon, I was here soon in our chance, and Colano, yet to me, Edo Machi Chiri, near Domo Attention, Ako. The other side and son of Mufi. Well, Madame Sona Beto and Sana, Yabascuni, or Biamba. I was any pan parents to him, send a hat here. It's all Macolani to Tomukrano Waba. Simply because Yente and once say, the be a quine, Nipa that's any say, midi, contain a CCO, a Jesus KD.
Area halfway now, more dadrin back when they say, Omuntumina drainage way, and my, Sir, about to me a drainage way, my padia, Macase. Area community in the better as a part because acquire at this swag say am I.
This is Walantu CP main road. Now the water from CP comes down from CP all the way to this area, and when it gets here, they slope it through this area. Then it gets to Walantu. Instead of it to go straight, the two areas. They did it only one, and it sloped the other community, which flattens the area.
With proper access roads and proper drainage systems in this community, development can take off. Some residents say, due to the poor state in which they live, they have decided not to pay the taxes needed for development. The Landlords Association say, to avert a catastrophe, all structures indiscriminately erected must be pulled down for vehicles to move freely in and out of the community. They say they will not be willing to pay property taxes failing this.
property rate na wɔn ba ha yɛ no mkɔ pa ya catch wɔn po sɛ this year deɛ wɔn ma wɔn si abra because yɛ dua property rate na wankasa hwɛ ha sɛ ne yɛde na nsuo ntɔ a yɛ cars na adeɛ nyinaa wɔ sɛ yɛ park baby ansa na yɛnante a yɛdɛn aba na sɛ obi kɔ bi yɛ car na ɔfa biribi a na yɛde fa yɛn nti yɛakɔ a yɛhu sɛ endu bibia mumma endu top se bedu president wo kora po a endu ho se ne ebe ya yenso ye be because yenso ye votu ye tua tax ye bibia workers wa ha won afi ha ekonkran eko ye adwumi nyina won wa ha ndi ye sere se won bo modin se won so me ye den won be hwe anya sa de a tax o property rate o e ye ba ha